Congresswoman Crockett, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you again.
You too. Thank you so much for making time for me today.
Yes.
Honey, this is the first time I've gotten to see you outside of the Capitol.
Yes.
Like you're out amongst the people.
This is a better place for me. I'm at peace.
She's at peace.
Yes.
You don't have to have your any colleagues. We can just be us.
Yes.
Yes. Although I
Yes.
want to be I don't want to be an elected office colleague, but I could work in your office.
Okay.
I could do social.
You could.
Focus me.
Listen, it is tough.
Your social's so good. You don't need me. Your team's doing so good.
It is tough. It is tough.
I just want to be there to cheer you on. I just am a huge fan.
Okay.
So look, it's only been 10 months of this administration, which is shocking. I didn't realize. I thought we were about.
It's shorter than that, but go ahead.
Oh, it's not even 10.
No.
It's 9.
He swore in January 20th. And we are not even to September 20th.
I wouldn't even have had a baby by now. Oh my God. This is okay. So in this moment, how are you taking care of yourself and connecting to a sense of joy? Or is that like Delulu to connect to a sense of joy right now?
It's definitely Delulu. More so on the taking care of myself part. I am really trying. I'm trying to be very intentional, very close with my pastor and some other pastors. So, we in a group chat, and like when things really, really get bad, then I'm usually sending them something. And then, it's good to have your girlfriends, like your day ones, like the ones that knew you way before there was ever a viral video, and they love you. Like they're going to look out for you. Like these are the ones that were knocking doors when no one thought you could win anything. I keep them around me. And so every chance I get, it's like, girl, let's go do brunch. Girl, let's catch up and talk about guys. Girl, let's, I take my time with like my friends who like recenter me. And then finally, like, if I had to find joy, it's in the faces of young people.
Oh.
It's just like, I don't have any kids. And so maybe that's what parents wake up with every day when they like wake up and they see their kids, and there's like, they're overwhelmed with joy, but also probably fear considering kind of where we are in this country. But when I've got girls that are not old enough to vote, that know who I am, come up to me and say, I want to go to law school now because of you, or I now want to be in politics because of you. It means the world to me, because growing up in St. Louis, like, we didn't have a me. There was no Black congresswoman that I saw. We had a Black congressman, but like until Cori Bush, there was not a Black congresswoman in Missouri. So it's inspiring. It's hopeful for me to know that young girls are watching and they're listening. Because when I was their age, honey, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. Oh my
I wasn't
gosh.
doing that.
That makes me happy that young people, it does seem like more young people are more involved, which I think is like than when I was in high school, at least.
Obviously social media has its downsides, but it also has its upsides, right? And so I feel like things like committee hearings are a lot more accessible, right?
Yes.
Because we're able to get those out and get those to the platforms in which they take in their information. And the fact that they're stopping and listening is great, because one of the problems that we have right now is that we don't have a well-informed citizenry. And so if we can get to the point that like people know what's happening, then maybe they can make better decisions. But ever since they got rid of civics, honey, we've been struggling.
If your dog could talk, they'd scream Ollie. And honestly, I get it. Their clean dog food has so much variety and they have so many flavors. No fillers, no weird preservatives, just real human-grade ingredients made in the good old US of A, America. So while my pup is thriving at mealtime, I also get peace of mind. Dogs deserve the best. And that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/better. Tell them all about your dog and use code BETTER to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/better and enter code BETTER to get 60% off your first box. That is a big sale. I do think the lack of access to information is a huge issue. So like first of all, I'm so glad that you have some community and that you have your day ones to to help keep you connected to some joy as you do the good fight. We talk about that a lot around here, that like if you don't have a connection to joy, it makes it a lot harder to stay in the fight.
Yeah.
We learned that from like Gretchen Rubin and some other people. I'm sorry, listeners and watchers, because I'm always bringing her up. I just love her. But yeah, so I'm glad that you have some connection to joy in some times, because it is hard out here, and we need our warriors to have some connection to joy. So I'm glad that you have that. If you ever want to put me on like a funny group chat, I'm always here. I'll like send you a funny meme. Meanwhile, vibe switch. So I was doing my makeup this morning and I was thinking about what I want to talk to you about, and I kept coming. So the vibe is like impact, and like, how do we make an impact better? I think you've been just giving like doctorate level, like making an impact lessons, like you're making such an impact. But also because you're a congresswoman, you have such a voice, you have such a platform. I was like, I want to ask you, what's the future of the Democrat Party? Are we gonna be okay, or no, or like, what do you think the future of the Democratic Party is?
I will tell you that I feel like we're going through the fire right now, right? And we know that, once things have been forged in the fire, they come out better and stronger and refined. And I think that that's good. I think that the idea that we are challenging one another, that we are really trying to figure out where we want the party to be, has the party been stagnant? I think that's all healthy. It is an ugly process though, right? I do think that, like, you were like, it's been 10 months. And I'm like, child, it ain't even been that long, right?
Yeah.
I think the hell that we're experiencing is going to allow us to come together and be like, you know what? We got our differences or whatever, because we're a big tent, but we got to come together, because it's not each other that is the problem. It's the other side. It's the fascists. It's the wannabe dictator. It is, the hater in chief. It is the racist in chief. Like, that is like what we've got to get out of. And so I think we will. But the more that people see, like, just this week, I was appointed to another committee, a subcommittee. The Republicans decided that they want to relitigate January 6th, because, of course, we can't litigate that enough. And every time we litigate it, it comes out,
pretty clear
and accurate. But, whatever. They are attempting to rewrite history. And Leader Jeffries decided to put myself and Jared Moskowitz, which we were not members of Congress when January 6th took place. And this subcommittee is going to be led by Eric Swalwell. And so it is this idea of, it's okay to kind of bring some of those younger, newer voices in. And so I do think we are kind of making strides, because in my mind, it was just going to be people that had actually done January 6th before, which there were so many people, and that would have been perfectly fine and acceptable. But I think as we are given more latitude and we are able to show that there's a different way to do politics, I think people will become more open to being more authentic, right? And not feeling like they've got to be in the mold of what a politician is in order to move the party forward. Because I think right now there's just a lack of trust. Like, people don't trust, they don't believe. And so while for whatever reason they thought Trump was authentic, and he understood him. I mean, he's a con, so he's good at it.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think there is something to be said for people just being completely disconnected, because they're just like, all the politicians are the same. No matter what side, they're all the same. None of them are doing anything to help me. None of them care. And I think showing up and sometimes getting mad, I think saying, oh, he's, a fascist, or saying he's a dictator, or saying, and then you just say it so plainly. It's like, I don't believe you, right? Like, I mean, like, that, this is big shit.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, we should feel that it's big shit, because it is.
Yeah.
And so, losing your shit every once in a while is okay.
So there have been certain Democrat leaders who have absolutely let me down. I think about Hillary, even though I voted for her and I was down with her. But I think about this idea of, like, I've had Democrat leaders that have let me down with things that they've said, and I'll voice that, but I'm still supporting them.
Yeah.
It's like my therapist says, like, healthy relationships have like a 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio.
Yeah.
So, like, you better believe that when like monkeypox happened with Biden, I definitely wrote an op-ed, but I definitely also said like 5 other really good things, and so like just making sure that, like, I want to give Democrat leaders like the benefit of the doubt. And I know that like things can be difficult but we still have to like show up for people, even if we don't necessarily agree.
Yeah. I can absolutely pick up though, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think one of the problems that we face in the Democratic Party is that we seek perfection, and we want perfection typically in our pastors and in our politicians. And both of them will let you down over and over and over, right? And so the reality is that we know on the Republican side, they will take the crappiest whatever and uplift them. I mean, we have a 34 count convicted felon, like the Exhibit A, right?
Yes.
Like Democrats never would, right? Like it's like, oh, you got accused of something, you got to go, right? Like we will take you down first, right? And the way that we imploded on Biden, and I was just like, but this man has a record to run on. Like, I'm sorry, like y'all need to translate like what it is that he's done to stabilize people's lives, what it is that is about to really impact their lives additionally in a positive way. Like we need to be the storytellers that are telling people why it matters to have just competency, okay?
Yes.
And why it's not supposed to be about who is the loudest or who seems like it's somebody you would want to go and have a beer with. Like we need to refocus on like what is the presidency supposed to do for those that don't know, because again, we're in a civics crisis, but also as Democrats, it can't be an all or nothing, because the reality is that we, you know, some of us, not me, have significant others. I would tell people this all the time on the trail. I'd say, now listen, you're sitting here, especially in Black church, I would do this. I would ask people to raise their hand. Say, raise your hand if you're married. And people would raise their hand and then I'd say you love them and then, you know, make it a little funny. But anyway, but they would answer. And then I would ask them, do you agree with your mate all the time? And emphatically, oh, no, nope. Definitely don't, right? I'm like, but you stay with them for life. I'm asking you for 4 years for this woman, right? Like the thing is, we impose this impossible kind of standard on and it's not to say we should not have standards, because the Republicans have decided they don't want any standards. That is why we have incompetence at every single level. And this incompetence is not only harming American people, but it is putting our allies at risk. It is putting the world literally into a tailspin, right? So like competence for sure. And should we look for excellence? Absolutely. But should we look for perfection? No. And so I think we have to check ourselves, because honestly, the perfect candidate for me may not be perfect for you, but chances are we agree 90%.
So I was a hairdresser behind the chair for like 20 years. Then I've had a hair care company for like...
This explains why your hair is always so fabulous.
We can leave. That's all. The future of the Democrat Party, you guys can figure that out later. Bye. I'm just kidding. But it's having founded a hair care company, I've learned so much about like behind the scenes stuff that I like, why did that formula change or that package? Like, why do they keep making, it's like, I just understand like how much goes on behind the scenes that I wouldn't have known prior to that. And so for you, one thing I learned about you when I met you and also then did further research, you got your start as a lawyer, which are and a public defender, which is like so cool. So you know that side of like, because what branch is that? Judicial. You know a little bit of judicial. You've been all up in this legislative branch. Yeah. So what do you think we need to like kind of understand about systems and making an impact on systems that maybe we don't know as someone who's experienced significant roles in many systems?
Yeah, no, I love that you brought up the different branches, because I think people are clueless right now when it comes to understanding kind of what our roles are. And I think that that's intentional, right? When you have a president that goes out and says something like, I'm the head law enforcement agent in the country. And it's like, bro, that's not what you, that's not what you do. Like that's not the role of the president. It does end up allowing people to support things that don't make sense based upon like our founding principles. So for instance, right now we're going through all of the Epstein stuff, right? And so even when we sat down with the survivors, they were telling us like the things that they want to see and they really want justice. And I was like, let's define what justice looks like, because I'm sitting in my legislative hat at that moment, right? So justice for me is going to look more like, as far as what I can offer, is going to be, what new legislation do we need to propose to make sure that other young girls and women don't end up in this type of situation? What information can we uncover and maybe then turn over to the Department of Justice and hope and pray that they then do their jobs? Because it doesn't seem like at least this DOJ was that interested in kind of going forward with continuing this investigation. We know that it was the Biden DOJ that ultimately successfully prosecuted Maxwell. We don't know if the Biden DOJ was conducting additional investigations because we know it wasn't limited to these two people, right? But like, I can't technically go and then try those people. That's not my role. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but that's not the hat that I'm wearing in this moment. And so I wanted to level set and make sure that I wasn't setting up these expectations for these survivors that we can't meet. So it is important for us to understand, though, that if I do something legislatively and it contradicts current law, whether it's federal law or whether it's case law or whether it's the Constitution itself, which is federal law, then it's up to the courts to then interpret and say, yeah, the legislature did this, but we absolutely have decided that it's unconstitutional. So it has to be overturned. And right now, the reason that I think it's so important that we understand is because we've seen a consolidation of power within the executive branch. We see the executive trying to do policing when that is not his job. We see the executive now trying to take over the courts. He has taken over the Supreme Court to the extent that they're not doing what they are supposed to do. And this is why we're currently in a constitutional crisis, because we don't have three co-equal branches of government. We have people that absolutely believe that there's only one level that matters, and it's the executive, when the reality is that, no, we are co-equal. It's just that some of us have more power or less because there's only one president, right? Versus if I'm in the House, there's 435 of us. And then the other portion of the legislative branch is made up of 100 senators. So there's 535 that we got to spread our power between. And then you have those 9 justices, right? So like, yes, theoretically, you're the most powerful because you don't have to build consensus with anybody on what you do. But then there's still certain powers, such as the power of the purse, that only belongs to the legislative branch, the 535 people. So it is important that we delineate. It is important that we start to hold the proper branches accountable for what it is that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's so important. Also, he just did it because isn't that called like a rescissions package when the president is that what that's called that I read about?
That's what he did one, but that ain't what he was doing. But yes.
Because didn't he just do like another one that I was listening to on NPR? Like there's because there was like an $8 billion one, and then they voted for, but then because there was like the 7 from NPR, and then whatever. I don't want to get into wrong figures. I'm going to focus. Okay, wait. So you got your start as a public defender in Bowie County, and you know, is there something from your experience there that you wish more people knew when we're talking about criminality or like suspected criminality, or just like, I just think about the way that people who have even been accused of a crime are like just stripped of their humanity so fast,
unless you're Donald Trump, but go ahead.
Except for him. But as like a public defender, I mean, I would imagine that you worked with a lot of people that were like wrong place, wrong time, like didn't have a voice, like were falsely accused. It's not like our justice system is right 100% of the time or perfect, as we can see from President Trump. So what do you wish that people knew?
Yeah, I mean, that was some of the most prolific work I've ever done. And I don't know, I don't know. I can tell you for sure that I wouldn't be sitting here today, but from my experiences in being specifically a public defender, when you are assigned to only deal with indigent people, first of all, you learn a lot about yourself doing indigent defense work. But you
also... Does that mean again, indigent? I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It just means the way that it was defined is you had to be living at or below poverty. Maybe they let us do 3 times, but every different kind of public defender's office and county will define what is indigent, which basically is poor. And so when they say things like, if you're unable to afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. It's the affordability and the lack thereof to be able to actually pay for counsel. So every county may define what that looks like a little differently, depending on kind of what the cost of living looks like in a certain area, that kind of stuff. And so I think we were like 3 times the national poverty rate or something. And then you could qualify to have a court-appointed attorney, which was a public defender. But it's just understanding what ends up having people become criminally impacted really informs so much of what I do legislatively, right? So when people are like, oh, crime is terrible. And yes, it is, right? Like, because when somebody goes out and commits a crime, they don't typically, say, well, I'm a D or I'm an R, I'm an I. It's not like literally like, it's about, well, how do you fix it? How do you make community safer? And I do think that I'm in a unique situation because I was having the conversations with people that were going out and committing crimes. And so I understood what was kind of pushing them there. And so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal. That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons.
Because it could have been like a crime of survival. Like you were trying, like you stole like diapers because you have like no money and like you got kicked off stamps and like your kids got like fucking raging diaper rash. And what are you gonna do? Like let's sit there and watch your kids like ass fall off. Versus a criminal mindset, which is like, I'm gonna evade taxes. I'm gonna be super duper corrupt. I'm gonna like inflate this thing and do like repeated actions over and over and over again without attempting to like heal or get better.
That's exactly right. Sense. That's exactly right. And so once I understood kind of what was going on from the mental health aspects, because unfortunately I had so many people that were struggling with mental illness and in different ways. And so when it came down to a lot of the drug crimes, seeing so many people that were really just self-medicating because they had not had proper access to healthcare, had not
especially
been
in
able
Texas
to
with marijuana. You have like $20 of marijuana, you're like probably a felon in Texas.
Yes
200,
and no.
300,
no,
500.
No, yes and no. Because unfortunately, which I worked on this a lot actually, if you have an edible, it's automatically a felony. So they add the weight of the sugar. So if kids go and make a brownie and they just put a little bit of flour in there, it is automatically a felony once it's mixed in with the chocolate and the sugar and everything else. So it's bad. So technically.
So do not drive with a fucking edible in Texas.
No.
Much better to get caught with flour in Texas.
Absolutely. You can have up to 4 ounces of flour and that is a class A misdemeanor. So
God, you can really tell when people who don't smoke weed write weed laws. Because 4 ounces of flour is a shitload of weed. That is like so much fucking weed. Like 4 ounces is.
But literally you can have like a pinch in a brownie.
And it's game over. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then the vape pens. So I was doing a lot around our kids because what would happen is we'd have all these like high schoolers that were 17, and Texas is one of 5 states that at the age of 17, you are an adult only for criminal justice purposes. Most every other state, it's 18. And so you'd have these kids that would fall into kind of this random window. And in a state like Texas, there's 254 counties. Maybe in a small town, they decide, oh, well, we know your parents and they got money. And so I won't prosecute you because all drug crimes are discretionary crimes. That's how you get to the top, right? So you don't necessarily have to prosecute. Well, prosecutors don't have to prosecute anything they don't want to, but they are considered a discretionary crime. But then in another town, they may just be like, oh, no, we're going to prosecute it. And so I'm like, people don't understand the impact. And when I would see kids that were already determined to be indigent, their lives were literally just being shut off before they started.
From the very beginning.
No, yeah, because you end up with a felony and you say you've got a felony drug charge.
Can never get a job.
You can't get financial aid to go to school with a felony drug charge. They don't give it
federally.
To you. Yeah. So you can't get federal aid. So it's
a drug charge, no FAFSA.
Correct.
I never knew that.
Correct. So I literally did a lot around at least getting it to 18 because, I mean, I've been to high school before, right? I know how kids are and whatever.
Someone leaves something in your car. It could have not even been yours.
All the things. And they're experimenting on stuff. Not to say that they should. Don't do it. I'm not saying that that's what they should do.
Well, you know what I say? Just don't do meth.
But should you
actually don't do weed there either in Texas? If you're in Texas, don't do it there either.
No, like, should you be impacted to the extent that, like, literally,
it's not worth it?
But they don't know that. I mean, you're talking about 17-year-old kids. So I'm like, at least if we do 18, it's a little, So anyway, not to kind of go down that rabbit hole, but I learned so much. And like, I remember, I tell people all the time that there was a case that really kind of just triggered me and just made me say, I've got to do something more. I've got to get into politics. And I had a 17-year-old kid who stole less than $20 worth of candy out of the concession stand at his high school. In Texas, that was considered burglary of a building. which is a felony. And so when you burglarize a building, even if you don't steal anything, you break in and you look like you're trying to steal or whatever, that's enough. And so literally for less than $20 worth of candy, because whatever attorney he had before me decided to put him on felony probation, and his mom was struggling to make ends meet, she wasn't able to go to school, pick him up, take him to the PO and all this other kind of stuff, and maintain her job. We had a judge revoke his probation for technical reasons, meaning he didn't pick up a new charge, he didn't have dirty UAs, but he wasn't showing up consistently, but he was a 17-year-old kid who was relying on other people to get him there. And they gave him a max sentence. And I knew I was going to see that kid again. And I did, because now you're going into like a Texas prison with like people that were doing a lot more than stealing candy out of a concession stand. And unfortunately, he came back and I was like, how did this help our community? It didn't. It only further hurt our... Yeah. Because now he's got this scarlet letter on his chest and it doesn't show up and say M&Ms and Snickers. It says...
felony or robbery.
Burglary of a building.
Could have been anything.
It could have been anything. And so like, that's the stuff. So I was like, this can't be real life. And it's funny because I would tell that story and leave it to certain people. They would think that, you know, I only advocate for things for Black people, but I advocate for everybody. And that was not a Black child.
Okay, so another thing about you that I'm obsessed with in my long list is that you got your start in state leg.
Yes.
So after you're a public defender.
Yes.
But we're obsessed with state legislators in this house. We've had the founders of Sister District on 19,000 times. We love state legislators. We understand the impact. We understand the importance. But I continue to learn in my age, like the ways that state legislators can like also affect federal stuff, which can happen with like amendments. And it can also happen with redistricting stuff. So that's really interesting. And I never realized that part of like state legislator and like federal stuff. So obviously that's come up a lot lately because Donald Trump had Governor Abbott do this redistricting process with these 5 seats, which we hate. So for our listeners, can you give us a 101 on what's happening in your district and where we are in this new map? Because they did approve it, didn't they?
They did. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think most people understand that state legislatures in most states, they draw their own seats. So they draw their own House seats, they draw their own Senate seats, and then they also draw the congressional seats. So when I was in the state leg, I actually participated in the drawing, or at least I tried to. They ignored me and they did what they wanted to do. But I was in the state leg when our new lines came about, and then I ran on the new lines and I was elected from Texas 30. The courts look at a lot of things. We have some protections that still exist under the Voting Rights Act, which oddly enough was signed into law by a good Texan, LBJ. People forget that we've had good things that came out of Texas, including Roe v. Wade also was a Texas case and came out of my district. So we used to have like life together and now we just buck wild. But nevertheless, and so what they decided to do was, after they were able to get the lawmakers back and lock them into the chamber and all this other kind of craziness, they steamrolled them and they passed these very racist maps. And the reason that I call them racist is because our Constitution specifically wants to make sure that like one person, one vote, and people of color have like the same amount of power. And so it's difficult to kind of figure it out when you're looking at something like a congressional map and representation. But essentially what the Republicans decided to do is that African-American voices would be worth about 1/5 the voting strength of their Caucasian Texan brothers and sisters. And then I forget the exact number on my Latino brothers and sisters. I want to say they're maybe 1/3. But right now, it's a 60-40 state. 60% of the state is people of color, and somehow well over 60% of the seats will be chosen by people that are not of color. And so we do feel like there's a direct violation of the Constitution as well as the Voting Rights Act, but Trump doesn't care about that. All Trump cares about is that he does not have a check on him for his last 2 years in office. So they passed these maps through the House and the Senate. The governor signed them into law, and we are going to court. So we are going to court. We are going to court, honey.
And we're suing.
You're talking to a lawyer.
And we're under the.
Did you not think we were? Did you think we weren't?
But so have they filed that suit yet? And are they going to say that is against the Voting Rights Act?
Well, okay. So we already were in litigation about the 21 maps. So we have been in litigation for 4 years. So I'd actually recently just testified in front of this 3-judge panel, and they were about to issue a ruling. And then they redid the maps. And I'm like, wait a minute. We told y'all.
So now they're even more. So, but does that mean you have to start from scratch?
So it could. But right now when we go to court, so basically it's kind of like an ongoing case because we were already in court. So what's going to happen is the hearing in October, that is about whether or not these maps can go into effect right now. So essentially all we're doing is saying, listen, yes, it's been signed into law and whatever. But while we fight this, don't let it go into effect because there is harm that will be done that cannot be undone.
So maybe they could not let it go into effect past 2026. So
exactly. So essentially not let it go into effect for this next term. And then we would basically fight it out and talk about why it's problematic. And then the court can decide, yes, it can go into effect. Or it could say, send it back to the legislature. Here are your guidelines on what you need to do. Or the court themselves can draw the lines. So they've got options. But right now, we're fighting to say, don't allow it to actually go into effect at this exact moment for this election.
Sometimes I can't stand my brain and how whip smart it is because I think what I'm about to say is right, but maybe I'm wrong. But didn't the Supreme Court say that Louisiana's maps were racist and were in violation of the Voting Rights Act?
Yeah.
So they sent it back to that legislator, and didn't they draw the exact same map? And then when they sent it back to the Supreme Court, they were just like, okay, keep that map, because that court didn't think it was as bad as the other court did when they had like Comey or like Justice Barrett versus the one before.
Yeah, so Louisiana and Alabama.
Or was it Alabama, not Louisiana?
It was both.
Oh,
Both Louisiana and Alabama got
those
caught with
sisters
their
are always
hands.
in it together.
Yes.
Those are two naughty sisters.
They all got in trouble.
Those are like the two Kardashians, you know? That was Kim and Kourtney during the election. Posting Melania, posting Elon. That's really, the Kardashian sisters had to be two states, honey. It's totally Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama and Louisiana.
There's naughty.
Yeah.
And you know Kourtney's Arkansas because they've got, you can find the diamonds over there.
Oh.
Yeah. And she's, cheaper.
Diamonds in, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch that.
Diamonds.
I'm going to
love your protein popcorn though, Court.
Oop.
Chloe.
So
that's what I meant. Love you, Chris.
You're so funny.
They suck.
So Louisiana had to add an African-American opportunity seat as well as Alabama. So we were able to get 2 new African-American opportunity seats where those voters actually chose African-Americans. But right now they are going back to the Supreme Court over the Louisiana case. And so they are really consistently trying because, again, it was actually all Republican, and they may have a supermajority in Louisiana that drew these maps and did this extra seat. And now they're kind of flipping around and may do something different. It is very wild, very crazy. But Texas, every year since the Voting Rights Act has existed, has been found to be intentionally racially discriminatory. And when we look at Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, that is the one that deals with race. We know that this Supreme Court has upheld this idea or subscribed to this idea that partisan gerrymandering is okay. So if you say, nope, we're just doing it because we're Republicans or we're just Democrats, that they've somehow ruled more so that can be done because that's a political question and they don't deal with political questions or whatever and that kind of stuff. But the reality is that when we look at the state, it's been found to be intentionally discriminatory by conservative courts historically. And this is the worst map they've ever tried to do. And we know that it's an intentional target because when we look at our delegation, we now will not have as many African Americans that are being elected. Not saying that Black folk got to vote for Black folk, but typically when it's like an African American opportunity seat, Black people run, right? And so that's what you get. And now we're talking about going from, we historically had 5 African Americans that were elected to the House from Texas. Colin Allred was one of them. He ran for the Senate. He was not replaced by an African American. A Caucasian woman won that seat, which is perfectly fine because it's about people choosing whoever. And that's what we call a coalition seat. And so then you have 4 left. Well, now under the new maps, they're proposing that there only be 2 African Americans that represent
a state.
Texas, and it has more African Americans in the state of Texas than any other state. That is what they're trying to do.
So what would you say? I mean, if you had to like give a chances thing, but we don't have to do chances, that's like a stupid quote. But what would you say the chances are that the Supreme Court says redraw that, or that this 3-court panel says redraw that?
So the 3-court panel right now, the only thing they're looking at is whether or not they're going to allow it to go into effect at this moment, because we don't have time to litigate the maps in this moment. And then we would litigate the maps as we're like elected and sitting in our seats, because our primaries start really fast. Like we start filing for our primary in November.
So what do you think the chances are that they're going to let it go into effect?
I think that it's possible. I mean, we're not looking at
like 50-50?
Yeah.
Flip of the coin?
I do. I do think that it's a flip of the coin. Again, because, I mean, you're talking about people that have been appointed for lifetime. We're not talking about people that, you know, can be fired by Trump, right? And I personally believe that judges have egos. So the idea that they have been in front of this court for the last 4 years and they have argued that these maps are the best maps they've ever created, and no, we shouldn't have new maps. And then all of a sudden, this attorney general sends a letter down to the state of Texas and she basically invokes race. And then they say, wait a minute, don't say that because then we're going to get in trouble. And while all this was pending, allegedly, the defense attorney, the state, supposedly was involved in drawing new maps while they're arguing and saying something completely different to the court. So I think just the lack of respect for the court and knowing that the court was about to rule, I just think that we play on that. And I think that the court is like, you know what? We're not going to let you keep playing in our faces.
Question. Is the Attorney General Pam Bondi? No.
Yeah.
It is. So Pam Bondi, as this court was about to rule, Pam Bondi said something about race to Texas?
Yes.
And then Texas was like, oh, wait, no, don't say that because it had to be about party, not about race.
Yes. So they're like, that's not why we're doing new lines.
Maybe,
but I'm like, but you
she
got
overspoke. So maybe like there could be an opening to fight something later in court about it, maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that we've got a lot to fight
case.
The actual maps. I think that we're in a really good place. The question is, will the maps go into effect at this moment?
And if they do,
and we don't want them to.
And we do not want them to. And if they do it, that basically pit like 4 of those representatives. Like,
it's more like, it just depends. I mean, people are going to make decisions. Right now, they move me out of my district, but they move me into the other Democratic district. So I can run where I live, or I can run where I historically have represented. So I'm
But you want to fight with that other person, or we have to fight with that other person?
No. I mean, one of the districts is mine, and then the other district where I live, that member is not going to run in that seat because they moved it all the way into my county only.
So if it does go into effect, you would still run for this new district?
I haven't decided, but I've got options. So what we would do is we would do polling. I want to see how people feel about me running in a district that I don't live in.
And this suit, that is in Texas, that's the NAACP, right?
It's a number of organizations, but that is one of them.
Okay, so just so we can keep our Google alerts on and keep tracking.
Yes.
And also we can just like follow you because you'll cover that.
Yes,
you can keep us
absolutely.
appraised. Okay, so got that. I also just wanted to say, Bleach blonde bat built Butch body. Did you have to workshop that? Did that just come to you in the moment? Had you thought about that? Like, did you wake up at 3 a.m. one morning and just be like, I have the perfect thing? It just came to you.
No.
It just came to you like this stroke of fucking.
It was a combo. I mean, I wrote it down in the moment. So I didn't just blurt it out. I like literally looked over at her as I was trying to get Comer's attention. And I was like, bleach blood. So we still have like the little sheet of paper that I wrote it on.
For months, went around my house and my bleach blonde bat built Butch body. Bleach blonde bat built.
There were so many good songs.
Bleach blonde bat built Butch body. It's such a good song, #1 hit if you ask me. Okay, so that was really good. And then in this moment, one thing that I hear so often is people saying, "My voice doesn't matter. I don't have a platform. I can't make an impact." And I think about like the Virginia 2017 like state house race that was literally determined by like, it was a tie break. Like the vote and the state race that would have given the control to the Republicans, it was a tie. And then the Democrats lost and they chose straws, literally. So one vote. And then I think about the 2020 or the 2000 election, the hanging chads. I think when they stopped that recount, it was 538 votes separated them. I mean, that was like a couple parents at PTA, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so our voices do matter, but What would you say to people that are afraid in this moment of using their voice or finding their voice or don't even believe that their voice has an impact?
Yeah, I would say that we would not see the type of resistance from the regime that is currently in office if your voices didn't matter, right? We see state houses that are pushing voter suppression tactics. We see the level of coercion and criminality that is coming out of certain people. They are afraid, right? And they stoke so much fear because in a democracy, the power always belongs to the people. And the worst thing that you can do is cede your power and allow them to make you feel hopeless or powerless, because then that is when they win. It is because we give up. And I don't believe that the American people are ready to give up. When I look at the images from the No Kings rallies that took place all over the country, I know that the people are in this fight when they're showing up to the town halls and they're raising their voices. I just say that we can't lose this energy. We've got to keep it up. And even when things are quiet and normal and boring and you're not constantly on edge and your blood pressure ain't running through the roof because there's always some drama coming out of the Oval Office, you still got to stay tapped in. And I think it was easy for people to literally go to sleep on Joe, because with Joe Biden, we literally could sleep.
Yes.
Right. But now it's like everything, like it's a fire over here, a fire over there. And it's always, angst and anxiety. And so, no, we've got to stay tapped in, but don't let anybody take your power. That is what makes us American, is that we are the greatest democracy that the world has ever seen. And we cannot allow people to tell us that we're unpatriotic because we believe in equity for the LGBTQIA community or for immigrants, and we believe in due process, and we believe that Black people are not inferior just because they have more melanin. Like, don't let anybody take away from us the fact that we truly are the most patriotic people that this country has ever seen. Because even though we may endure hate because of how we show up in the world, we still show up and we still love this country.
Yes.
So we just need to show what it looks like to love instead of just claiming that we love and then in our actions doing everything to show that we're nothing more than haters.
So for the people that might be in parts of the country where that mindset is woefully outnumbered, like my hometown, 3-1 voting for Trump. For those people, what's your message to stay hopeful?
So this is what I'll say, is that it's okay to admit that you got it wrong. And, I was watching where a young lady used to be MAGA, and she talked about how it was so tied to her faith. And I'm like, but he don't even know the Bible, and we ain't seen him in nobody's church except for some funerals, right? So but this idea of you've got to choose one or the other. And it is why we believe in separation of church and state, is because this is not to say to let your faith go, and it's not to say to check your faith at the door. But when you're electing people, you're electing them to govern. You're not electing them to be your pastor. And Lord knows he's not. So don't allow them to distract you in this idea that this is what you have to do because it's tied to your Christianity. No, your Christianity and your faith is tied to your faith and nothing else. And so if you can kind of separate that and start to understand that, yes, if you're in that small town and you're a farmer, and we know right now that bankruptcies for farmers is up 55%. So far, we've had more bankruptcy filings from farmers than the entirety of 2024. It is time for us to say, and once the big ugly bill goes through, we know that rural hospitals are going to start closing. Some of them have already started closing prematurely because they know that they're going to have the shortfalls. It is time for you to say, you know what, I've got to do right by me and mine. And so do your research, find out how your representatives are impacting your life. And when you have somebody that shows up like a Joni Ernst and says everybody gonna die.
Yeah.
And clearly her political career ended on that day because she's decided not to seek re-election. But I will say she was telling the truth. This bill that they passed, I have never seen in all of my legislative years on any level, I've never seen our neutral body, which for us is the Congressional Budget Office, estimate deaths. And that's what they decided to do, is estimate the amount of deaths that are going to result because of this legislation.
So for the MAGA people, get it together. But for the 1 in 4 that didn't vote for MAGA in my hometown to stay close to hope, follow people like you. Stay tapped in there. This is really quick. This is rapid fire. I'm so sorry. I just think about the emotional gaslighting and the policy gaslighting that's happening on the right now when we're accused of political violence. And then I think about Melissa Hortman.
Yeah.
When, Nancy Mace says things like, the Democrat Party is the party of political violence, but January 6th.
Yeah.
When Nancy Mace says that Republicans are the party of freedom for women, but they're the ones that literally make it so that women are bleeding out in parking lots and can't have access to life-saving health care, that women don't know what to do with their body better than the government does.
Yeah.
That's not the party of women. No. It's gaslighting.
Yeah.
To say that a state knows better what's best for a woman's body than what that woman does, that's gaslighting. Yeah. And it's so pervasive. I mean, Trump's reaction when he said, this is what happens when you demonize someone over and over and over again. What about the queer people who are getting literally killed? What about Melissa Hortman, who is demonized over and over and over again? So why is it for one way but not for the other way? That to me is such the gaslighting. Can we cut through this gaslighting?
I don't know that we can. I mean, it would be my hope and prayer. And we know that we did not see any Democrat that came out and, said anything irresponsible as it relates to responding to the most recent tragedy. But it would have been nice to have a president of the United States or a House that recognized another elected leader immediately and did something. And we didn't have that. But nevertheless, they don't do it. That's fine. We will always do what is right because it's always the right time to do what is right. And so that's fine. But, one of the conversations that's really not taking place is that there is this internal, I am absolutely positive when you have a party that has been stoked or a faction of your party where you say things like Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. When you have neo-Nazis that are coming through for January 6th, and this isn't hyperbole, this is, And so you are given license to bad actors so long as they are pushing forward with a narrative that you're okay with. And I don't think anyone should give anyone license to commit any violence under any circumstance. But we've only seen this president give license, and the numbers are clear. Political violence as well as racial violence and hate has skyrocketed. And it all started with Donald Trump. The numbers are there. We know what they are.
In Charlottesville.
Exactly. Where there were fine people.
Yeah, on both sides.
Absolutely. He has consistently given a pass to this type of behavior. And even when we look at there were members that decided that they were going to leave the House this last term. And we had people on the Republican side that left. You know why? It wasn't because they were getting threats from the left, because MAGA was threatening them when we were going through our whole speaker. Files. Well, no, but yes, that now. But I'm saying that this is a continuous kind of thing that we see. What we saw was that when we were having the speaker fight, because we didn't have a speaker. Yes. They were mad about certain members not voting for very MAGA people to become the Speaker of the House. They were threatening. I mean, there was a member talking about threats that were sent to his wife. There was a member who ended up getting kicked out of his office, by
other conservatives. So it's conservative on conservative crime.
That part.
This year, California, very important ballot is going to be coming up. We're voting yes on redistricting this year in California.
Yes. November 4th, California, show up, show out. It's Prop 50. We need you to stand up and fight back. We know that this administration has not been treating the state of California fairly. Don't give him more power to just shit on you. It is time for us to fight fire with fire.
Congresswoman Crockett, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your work and for your advocacy for the American people, for your constituents in Texas, and just for all of us. We will be here cheering you on and supporting you forever. Thank you so much, honey.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.